Where do I start? They say life imitates art. I'm trying to paint a picture. Paint a picture that's licking you scripture. I ain't just another nigga. Another nigga with a dream. It seems we finally made him all believe. A dream to be the reason we come to achieve. The life that we would all kill for, even die for. High score, so sick, so sick. Sick and tired of these little kids talking real shit.
And gentlemen. Hold on, let me get my seat.
Your voice sounds so good in my headphones. I can't hear very much in my headphones right now.
You can't hear much in your headphones right now? How about that?
I can hear you nicely. Oh, I can hear myself nicely now too. I think it was just me that was turned down.
Here, how's that?
That's amazing.
You don't have to be that close.
Really? That close?
You can be as close. Right there.
Really? Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but now I can hear like very well too. So it's like the best of both worlds.
Perfect.
Thanks, buddy. My phone's off.
Your phone's off doing that? My phone don't usually do that. That's weird.
Is that I literally turn it off?
Prior just sent me a message a minute ago, but
is it like a frequency thing?
It must be. That was weird. I'm just gonna turn my shit off. Turn these tunes down. This is a good song.
You got the rights for it?
No, I don't. But if we talk over it,
it's not gonna pick up.
And it's quote unquote background music.
Yeah.
Then you can do that. You can get away with it.
He knows all the tricks. I love it.
We own the rights. Hell no, we don't own no damn rights, no damn music.
Don't ask a question if you know the answer.
Well, that's what I'm saying, man. But you're a smart man, Matt Thomson. You're a smart gentleman, so you knows better.
Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome, my man. You're welcome. Okay, so I'm a little under the weather, as y'all probably could tell. But I'm here, damn it. There will be no episodes not recorded due to sickness. That's why it's also my special microphone. Nobody else gets to touch and cough on it because you don't want my germs and I don't want yours either.
After watching today's podcast, I don't think anybody's going to want to sit in that chair or use that.
I got my orange snot rag here. It's a microfiber cloth that I've been blowing my nose in for the past 2 days. It's better than using tissues and Kleenex because they literally just rip apart and I just can consistently blow. It's like a handkerchief.
You wash it?
Yeah, I'm going to wash it after I used it.
But you've used it for 2 days?
I used it yesterday and today.
Do you ever find yourself like bringing it up to your nose and realizing that it's like a big wet spot?
That there's still goober in it? Yeah. I just fold it over. Just find another spot. That's my size. That's the purpose of having a large size microfiber snot rag. That's what I'm saying.
It's like self-cleansing. Is it a Norwex thing?
Who's Norwex?
Norwex?
What's that?
Microfiber. I'm in love with Norwex. My wife, Megan.
No free promo, by the way.
Okay, well, it's this company that starts with an N. But I'm telling you, it's microfiber as well. But we have like everything in our house. And by the way, we're going to a bunch of weddings this summer.
Okay.
So, spoiler alert, but a lot of people are getting Norwex for Christmas or for their wedding gifts. This microfiber is this amazing thing that we have, like ones that are like specific for like countertops, but also specific for windows, and like to the point when I'm not the most organized, the cleanest person in the world.
Okay.
And this is like a thing that happens.
Okay.
That's like discussed on this group of like Norwex people.
Okay.
Where she showed me this like window cleaner and I was like, no. And then I started like cleaning our windows, and then like 2 hours later, I cleaned all the windows in our house, and it was like fun because it was so strange.
I had so much fun cleaning windows.
Yeah, I think it's just part of like this big conspiracy. But
and you believe it now, though. You believe in the conspiracy.
Did I not just spend 2 minutes talking about it?
Free promo? Shit, isn't that crazy how that works? Well, since our unpaid ad spot is complete, welcome everyone to the Changing the Narrative podcast. I am your host, Terrence Taylor. This will be, I think, episode 62, maybe. I think I'm going to slate Bradley in, who's coming in after you. Slate Bradley in before you. Only because
as it should.
There's some black shit I want to talk to Bradley about. That, I mean, not that I can't talk about black shit with you, but
I got less to bring to the table.
I would love, experts to talk about expert like that. And actually, no. So Jesse, you hear about Jesse Smollett?
Yeah.
So it's that, which we can't talk about 2 weeks from now, because that'll be not as entertaining. And then Kaepernick, the Kaepernick settlement. Did you hear about that? Mm-hmm. There's not enough details.
No,
I don't think, but it's interesting. We'll probably.
There can't be details. Well, just okay. So without taking over that conversation, what's your 10-second thought on the Jussie Smollett thing?
He done fucked it up for everybody.
Jussie
Smollett. He fucked it up for everybody because now anybody he's the boy who cried wolf. He's the black boy that cried, the black gay boy that cried wolf. Anybody who feels like that they've actually been oppressed racially or because of their sexuality, this fucking famous dude used it because he was getting written off a show. Fuck this guy.
I think that's the parallel that I draw is that having somebody do something like that provides ammunition to those who, let's say like the more right-wing crowd that will be able to then use that as a reference point for anybody else that experiences that wrong. Yep. And the parallel I would draw as well is the same thing with regards to like sexual harassment or sexual assault, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's such an important piece to go and not get muddied up by any action like this, because any ammunition you can give to the wrong side in these situations is the worst thing you could possibly do.
Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, I'm not going to, talk about that with Riley because it's going to be 2 weeks from now. Everybody's going to be like, yeah, everybody's already said this stuff.
We already talked.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's good. Did I introduce the show officially? I don't think I finished it.
No, we just started off with our ad spot.
We got excited. Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Terrence Taylor. This is Changing the Narrative Podcast. I'm your host. I'm here with dad, friend, businessman. He goes by the name. That's it? That's all?
That's it.
Matt Thomson. Hey, Matt Thompson's here.
I'm glad to be here.
Finally.
Honored. It's a privilege.
It's been too long. We should have had you on earlier, but that's okay. Timing. This is what timing is.
Yeah.
It's perfect. You're here on a Sunday morning. Got your coffee.
Tea.
Got your tea. You got your intermittent fasting going.
There you go.
Well, that's among one of the few topics we're going to talk about today. Family unit and what motivates you, sir. We're going to talk about work-life balance / work-life integration. Because that's the buzzword around that. Is it even possible? Is it true? We're going to figure it out. Talk about working in a creative space. The benefits of that. I'll get free ad spots at CGS though. That's easy. Actually, they should have to pay in support of us. We shouldn't be giving nothing away free to our friends. We'll talk about that. And here by choice, versus come from a ways. Hashtag why here? Why here? Why you choose to live here? So that's what we're going to talk to Matt about today.
So much loveliness in there.
Well, it's going to make for a great conversation. I'm very excited for it. I got some housekeeping things I got to get to first.
Yeah.
This is going to be all fucked up because the weeks are going to be all weird. Anyway, regardless what week it is, you should make sure you check out the Changing the Narrative podcast on Instagram and our website, changingthenarrativepodcast.ca. Gotta thank again the beautiful Mike Tanner for making us a beautiful website.
What other platforms?
Oh, not that. I mean, I was going to say that. I just want to tell people to go to the website, but I guess I tell them to go to the Instagram, the Facebook, and the YouTube as well. And Spotify if they're not listening on Spotify or Apple Podcast. And make sure that I gotta say thank you to all the people who are listening on all these various platforms, because we would be nothing without the people that's listening. So thank y'all very much wherever you listening at and watching and shit. We love y'all. Par's not here, but we love her too.
Can I flip the script real quick?
Do it.
60 what? What episode is this?
This will be 62.
How does it feel to have been part of something that you've done 62 episodes of, that you just kind of, it's different now than it was episode 1.
Oh shit.
But
yeah,
how do you feel?
I feel like we haven't even started yet, to be honest. I feel like we know. I feel like we know what we're doing, but we don't know shit. I feel like we know what we want to do and what we want to accomplish, but I feel like we're just like getting our shoes. Like so we got to run a race, right? We just left the house to go to the store to buy the shoes that we're gonna run the race in. Like we're on the way to the mall. So, but I think that's the coolest part about it, because I talk about this to people. Like, I want to see CTN in 10 years. Like, then talk about how you feel. You know what I mean? Like, it's.
Do you think it's gonna be different though?
No, it should have evolved and changed in a lot of ways.
Well, the show is going to be different, but do you think the answer is going to be different?
Maybe. I don't know.
Because you almost feel like if the answer is like, yes, this is what it is, we're in that structure and we're golden, you almost feel at that point, it's like, well, what's the point? Because you're not, you know what I mean? Like, you're not really continuing that progression, that evolution.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, but it's impressive though, man. 60,
Thank you.
62.
Thank you. I'm just, like, again, it's hard. The hardest thing is trying to coordinate these things sometimes, like just trying to get people's schedules on time and like get people. It's like, we was going to have Bradley and you together, but we couldn't schedule it.
We don't like hanging out together very much.
That's what I'm saying. So it's just like, just a challenge of getting people together and having people to come talk. Like, it's not even a shortage of people that we could have on the show. Like, I was like, yo, you want to do this? And you're like, done. You know what I mean? So it's just understanding that, like, we just got to keep doing it. I was sick. I ate 9 grapes yesterday and drank tea and water. And it's like, bruh, we're going to do 2 today. So if God forbid anything happen next weekend, we set. But, like, I'm just in it, man. And like I said to you before we started recording, like, we talked for probably an hour and a half before we even press record. Like, that's why I like this. Because I get to have like real meaningful conversations with people. And a lot of the meaning and a lot of the gems, unfortunately, don't even make it to the episode. Because we'll be here for hours just being human and doing cool human shit together. And like, that for me is the biggest thing. So I guess we can keep doing this with more and more people. Like, that's the goal, right? And if there's all these people in the world who got stories to tell, like, this shit shouldn't end. Unless we say, okay, we don't want to do no more.
So you hear that a lot though, right? You hear that it's like, it's a good catalyst to conversation. Yeah. And obviously you have to be a good conversationalist, and you are, but
thank you.
But because conversations like this realistically don't happen very often.
What do you mean?
Like sitting down and you and I looking at each other and having a conversation after already having a conversation for an hour and a half. And just like, you have to, in today's world, you have to really go out and create a structure for that to happen, which is kind of podcast world at this point. Right. Yeah. Or, or you have like a phoneless Friday, or you do something like that. And like, my point is, it's hard to sit down and have an uninterrupted conversation with people these days, unless it's structured and you find the time for it. Right. So that's why something like this can be so cool, where you're saying that there's so much benefit that you take from it beyond what's recorded and beyond what's put out. Yeah. That's like, you would think that's like that's like the product that you want to go towards. Yeah. But from a how does it feel perspective, it probably is, it sounds like a lot of the benefit is just from having the opportunity to have these conversations, creating a platform to have those conversations in a very unique way in today's world, where people aren't, my phone is off right now. Yeah. Like, your phone is off right now. Yeah. You're not checking, okay, did the premier share this? No, okay. Like, you did though. But you're not, but you know what I mean? Like, it's interesting, and it's a good thing. It's kind of annoying if you think about it from that perspective, because it's annoying that it takes well, I'm sitting with a microphone, you're sitting with a microphone 2 inches in front of your face, and that's what it takes to have like a real conversation. Yeah. But hey, if that's where we are, that's where we are. Let's deal with it.
I love it. I love it. Those are the words of Matt Thomson, 1/3 of Placemaking 4G. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks, buddy.
You just made me feel really good right now. Okay, so we're gonna talk about some shit, because I'm very excited. And because we were just talking about P4G, and Okay, because here's what I wanted to do, and it's just always because I like giving people the backstory. So we were like, all right, so Matt's coming on, Bradley's coming on, but Lauren's not here, so we don't want to do like an official P4G episode because we really can't. So why don't we kind of extract Matt's story? We'll extract Bradley's story. We'll bring Lauren in, boom, and then we'll make it all magical. So, and I was like, okay, let's talk about P4G. And he's like, well, just. It's probably a little bit more meaningful to talk about like the motivation behind your role in P4G other than like, here's our business and we do recruiting. And if you want to know what P4G is all about, there's a fantastic video made. Where can they find it? Because we don't want to spend our time talking about, we want to talk about the juicy stuff, but they need to see this video.
That's why the video is so useful, right? Well, as of now, when this video comes out in 2 weeks, I think it's still going to be only accessible through the Nova Scotia government, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn.
Gotcha.
Which is just NSGov. I think it's, if you just search NSGov, they selected us as part of their Changemakers series and commissioned this great video. Shout out to FPS for their work and being able to conceptualize something that it's kind of hard to. We always say we're terrible at elevator pitches, and somehow they did it for us in about 60 seconds. So check that out because it's well worth a watch, and it explains a lot about what we do and what a social enterprise is.
NSGov.
Yep.
Do it. Because I don't want to talk about P4G. I want to talk about why Matt Thomson does what he does and what motivates him to be who he is. Because knowing you, I feel like as a dad of 3 and as a husband, I feel like that's probably where a lot of the motivation comes from.
Yeah. I mean, it borders between a lot and where it comes from, like between 95 to 100%. But yeah, I mean, the motivation for what, for anything really. I mean, it's the most, I think my favorite story that I hear about people who have kids and try to kind of express what it's like. They talk about how it's the most exhilarating, exhausting, but amazing thing that they do. And that's a good way to look at it, because it's very, very true. And it changes. It's allowed for me to grow as a person. It's allowed for me to really prioritize structure and realize what's important to me and how I need to do it. And the I kind of grows into like a royal we, but it's all built around that motivation factor. And it's wild, man. 3 kids. They're how old? Well, we can just speak in the present day. 6 months, 3 and 4.
Jeez. So
it's a busy household, but wouldn't have it any other way.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And okay, what requires more responsibility? Being a dad or being a husband?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. I think that you need to be a good husband before you can be a good dad. Tell me more. In my situation. Yeah. So obviously I can only speak to my story and my experience. But the reason I say that is, and I'm not saying that I'm either, because I'm frankly, from a striving to get to that point perspective, you're always kind of continuously trying to improve. Yeah. But I do think that there's a huge want and a huge desire to like be kind of dad first and be like, dad of the year. And I think, you hear people talk about it as Instagram dad and the dad who's always at all these things. But in our situation, I can't do anything that I do without Megan. I can't be as good of a dad. I can't be as good as anything without Megan. And the only reason that we have that relationship is because, it comes naturally to us, but we also can work real nicely as a team. Yeah. And when we can communicate, we end up being not only, I wouldn't necessarily refer to as a good husband, but more so like as a good couple, and even more so as a good team, because we are a team in everything that we do. And that comes from being a good husband, a good wife, a good team member, a good everything. Right. We are a unit, she and I. And because of that, we can have conversations and be like, man, that really didn't work out today. Like kids wise or parenting wise, or let's try to do it this way. Or let's have a real talk conversation about this. Cause it's all part of the same thing, right? Let's use a kid's analogy. And it's like, you can have 2 different colors of Play-Doh, but as my kids would tell you, when you squeeze them together, it becomes one ball with 2 different colors in it. Yeah. That's pretty much what it's like. So they can't really be separate. I think that you just need to have, it's a good foundation, and that's what works for us. It might work differently for other people, but that's what works for us.
What excites you more?
Being a dad or being a husband?
Yeah.
Well, realistically speaking, there's a lot more dadding going on than husbanding.
Okay.
So there's, the priorities are kids for most of the hours of the day when I'm around. But I had a really good conversation this week with some folks who realized that they found, or what's really important to them is to have like a quarterly reset and to have like that one-on-one time together, where you can obviously spend some time really working on your relationship and doing that kind of stuff. I think that it's really hard at times to justify making the time for yourself and for like each other. But when you do, it's one of those things that you can't stop singing the praises of, because you're like, oh, we should do that more often, kind of thing. So I guess fortunately or unfortunately, it would be the dad thing is just, there's a lot more to pull from that perspective, from a day-to-day basis. But again, it's really hard. Like it sounds kind of silly. This is kind of the first time that I'm thinking about it, because you're asking these questions that have never been asked before. Yeah. But it's really hard to separate, because it's kind of like, it's like you're the captains of the team, but the team also consists of Miles and Jacob and Dorothy. Like that's so it's kind of like a unit thing. It's kind of like us against the world kind of thing.
Yeah. So you're the team captain, but this is your whole.
Yeah. For now, but I feel like I'm on like the downside of my career. I've like reached the peak, and then like the 4-year-old's moving up in the ranks pretty quick.
Well, isn't that the whole? Heads. But that's the thing, right? Like you become parents to model the behaviors in which these small humans observe, to then go out into the world and be.
Dude, do they observe? Do they observe
everything?
Oh my goodness!
What happened?
Talk about holding up a mirror. What hasn't happened? think of the faults that you try to like either put out of your mind, or like just like assume like, it's not that bad.
Yeah. And
then just think about like holding up a mirror to those faults on a regular basis and being like, really? Is that me? Okay. Do they observe? Yes. There's a lot of observation.
Do you have an example?
A specific example?
Yeah.
Probably not one that's like gonna just like, if you like as an exercise, just like think about like something that you do that annoys yourself, that generally reminds you of your parents.
Oh shit.
And then just think of like the fact that somebody is going to be a little person and they're going to be around. And this is good for all listeners to do, to be like, okay, so you can't just hide those things and pretend that they don't exist, because if there ever is, when there's a little thing that's yours that then starts to emulate those as well, that you realize, okay, no, this is a real thing. This is being shown back to you in like all of its grace, all of the things that your dad did, or all the things that your mom did that annoyed you beyond anything else. Your kid is doing it now because you do it. And you're like, okay, that's time to work on me.
I guess that was going to be my next question. Like, how does it make you feel? But like, what are some of the things that go off in your mind of being like, oh shit, like this is not good.
It's a good learning experience. I think you I fall victim to it all the time, but you can't really hold it against yourself, and you can't hold yourself to blame too much, because kids are equally impressionable as they are adaptable. So you can, just because something happening once that doesn't mean that that's going to be their entire life, and that's how they're going to approach things, right? So if you just approach it, I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you approach it as a learning experience,
right,
to be like, okay, time to do this better.
Yeah.
Like I go back and forth for a couple different reasons about doing things like even a dumb thing like biting your nails.
I was wondering what you were doing.
Yeah. So I stopped biting my nails, like, this is stupid, but I stopped biting my nails like a year ago. There was a big family kind of health crisis that was happening. So I was like, oh, if you can't do that, then I'm not going to be biting my nails. And then, but you feel good about that. And it's like, for me, it's always been a lot of work to not, because I just have always been a nail biter.
Why are you a nail biter? Were you?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Stress. It's like it's a bad habit to develop early, which to the point is a good reason not to do it. Yeah. Is you can also see your kids like starting to do like something like that, or like be like a little bit like fixated with like doing that kind of stuff, and be like, okay, well, if you stop, then they're going to stop. And the only reason you do it is because you've done it your whole life. Yeah. So you might as well stop them from doing it, or stop doing it so they don't watch you do it, because then they're going to be in a position where they're like, oh, I've just done it my whole life. So it's kind of like a bad habit to break. I need like 90 days. What is it? 90 days? No. How many times to change a habit?
It's like, I thought it was like 21 or some shit. That doesn't matter. Just do it long enough that it becomes real life, and then you don't have to worry about the days. That's very interesting, yo. That's very interesting. And so all these contributing factors could make you who you are, and in turn made you create a business that kind of reflects some of these at-home ways of life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of. I think that there's aspects of in my situation, there's aspects of the family life that are equally humbling and motivating. And when everything you do has these like three little things in the back of your mind behind a motivation, it becomes very clear to set priorities.
Three little things.
3 kids.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's 3 little things.
Yeah, gotcha.
So it becomes really, really clear, and you become very able to set priorities. And that's been probably the greatest gift that I've been given beyond those things themselves, as far as the 3 kids are concerned, is it's so able to be clear and concise into what you want to do. And then from a business perspective, that's my motivating factor behind it, really, is doing it for the kids. And what can I do that you can be proud of? What do you want to do? Because you want to be able to do something that you love doing, that they can see that you love doing something, to see that they can then do something that they would love to do when they're growing up. Yeah. And then ultimately from the Placemaking 4G perspective, to create something that has the possibility to create a better future for them. Mm-hmm. Here, wherever they want to be, but specifically here, to be able to have an opportunity that they should be able to kind of delve into, right? So that's a huge, not to be understated, motivation behind it, because man, it's everything.
So how do you balance the building of this thing that's meant to help your young people in the future with doing the things you must do today that are important? Like, how do you do that?
Well, I stand on the integration side of that, the balance versus integration.
Work-life balance versus work-life integration.
And it's interesting. It's difficult. And you find yourself, you're correcting yourself all the time, right? Because like sometimes I'll be like, okay, so if I feel like I need to send that email and make that phone call or do something at whatever hour of the day or night that is, and the opportunity cost of doing that is not being able to build a train set or play that game or bath the kids or do something, right? Then you start realizing like, well, if my motivating factor is for the kids to do this, but I'm basically neglecting the kids to do the thing that's motivating factors the kids to do it. That seems kind of silly. So it's really good to be able to kind of, be checks and balance. You do like check yourself constantly as you're doing it to try to figure out how to best go about kind of approaching what that integration can look like. So for me, what the integration looks like is quite a bit of time management, a lot of communication with Megan to figure out exactly what you can do and what you can't do. I think setting clear I don't want to say guidelines, but setting clear parameters for what you're able to do and take on from a parenting perspective, from a husbanding perspective, as well as what you need to do from a business perspective and from a P4G perspective is basically the only way that I know how to do it right now, is to make sure that you can have those clear parameters that allow for you to focus on what you need to focus on at that moment. Because the other thing is, I have a day job, right? So you have to also be able to prioritize down to the minute and segment your life down to the minute to be able to say, okay, so this is what I need to do at this moment to get this done. And I always want to be, I always want to have 2 hours to 4 hours in the evenings to be able to do bedtime, to be able to do that kind of stuff. And some nights it works out when you're working all the time. And some days it works out where you're working all the time. And the only time that I get to hang out with the kids is when I get home after bedtime, and then they wake up in the middle of the night and they come in to bring you into their bed. But then you're able to really live in that moment because that's the time you get to spend with your kids. Plus they're like quiet and stuff when they're sleeping. So it makes it easier
doesn't hurt,
to cherish and appreciate them when they're yelling all the time. But yeah.
That sounds really challenging to manage all of them. Okay, so because it's like, work-life balance, work-life integration, like, can you explain the two? Because it feels like integration almost feels like there's like a real action plan, because you kind of have to have one, otherwise it'll just be muddy.
Kind of. I think that I'm in that boat right now because I've chosen to basically wear three hats.
Three hats being
I have a day job, three hats being started a company, and three hats being family.
Gotcha.
So I think that I'm in that boat now because I need to be, but I think that integration is the path forward. Because I don't see it the way that you just described it. I see integration as being able to have work and life that are aligned for the same purposes. So the work at Placemaking 4G is very much aligned with what I want to do, how I want to be, the person I want to be, as well as what the person I want to be at home. You don't have to be a different person. The integration, I see it becomes a lot more fluid and natural at that perspective, because you don't have to think, okay, who am I when I'm picking up this call, or what am I doing when I'm going to see this person? I guess at that point it can be a little bit more structured, because you don't have to work as hard at figuring out
who you are, when.
You are. Right. Exactly. Because like we've all had jobs that are just bullshit jobs, right? When you have to put on a front, and you have to, that's what you have to do. So my perspective towards work-life integration is doing that thing and finding that thing that you're passionate about, that allows for you to be the same person throughout, which I've never had the opportunity to do before.
Being the same person throughout.
Yep. That's my definition of integration, but I'm sure there's smarter people out there that can negate what that is.
You know what? But I'm sure there's some other technical reason or technical definitions to what it is. But I guess that's a piece that I've never looked at it from that perspective of.
Well, I look at it from that perspective, and I always have, because if you just think about it think about it from a language perspective. And when you have balance, you have a scale and you have two things on opposite sides of things, right? It's almost like there's two things that are how much time you dedicate to this, but you're almost like setting up that like conflicting, that like confrontational kind of aspect where there's two things that are very separate. But work-life integration, let's go back to the Play-Doh analogy. Yeah. If you can find yourself in a position in an industry, in a career that allows for you to grow as a single person rather than grow your professional life on one side at the risk or at the potentially causing any kind of additional issue on the family side or on your personal life side, that's what I don't want to get into, and that's what I feel balance kind of became, and that's what it is in my head. Is why does it have to be two separate things? Yeah. So that's the integration piece that I always feel.
I like that, because I look at it from less of a like who is the person that I have to be and all the time to like how do I work? How do I live? How do I work? How do I live? When that email comes in at an obscene hour that I don't have to respond to, what do I do? And I guess it's different because I'm not tucking somebody in at night versus answering this email. But I guess there's even a layer of like, I don't want to do that though. I don't want to answer this email, regardless if I'm looking at it and I know it would take me 30 seconds to do it. I think it's for me, the work-life integration has been like, how do I not do something when I know I probably could, and I should probably stay in life mode instead of switching over to work mode for 45 seconds and then switching back over. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But like, and it all comes back to figuring out what works for you, right? Yeah. It's not my integration isn't your integration, isn't anybody else's integration. Right. But, I sometimes I'll be in moods where I want to be on it and I want to answer that email when it happens. And if that means, tucking the kids to bed first and then answering the email, we can do that. But, it all rolls around to kind of putting in that self-work up front to figure out what it is that is what you want to do. What is it that will help contribute to you becoming a better insert title there. Yeah. And then how are you going to go about doing it? And I think that I kind of lucked into doing that pre-work without even realizing it. And then finding myself now in a position when it's starting to kind of come together. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It makes perfect sense. And I guess that's the cool part is having when we had the masculinity conversation, and Mike, Kyler, and I all tried to define masculinity, and we all gave it completely different definitions. Mm-hmm. But I think the important part and what you're touching on is it's about what works best for you. There's this broad concept of how we should all do things, but we are not all broad people that are just made to just cut and paste into this general idea. So I think that reflecting on what it is that is important. And I think it's cool too that like the person you want to be at home and the person you want to be outside of your home are aligned similarly. So like you just flow, right? Like you're just you and you keep doing. And I think that's really cool, man. That's really cool, man.
Well, just like whether you're doing that in your life or not, just think about the bandwidth that it takes to reset every time you move between one and the other. Oh. Mm-hmm. And the frustration that it causes when you don't. Mm-hmm. If you're in like quote unquote work mode, when you're trying to have, and I've been there, and it sucks. So just don't, you know what I mean? Yeah. But there's no, like, to the masculinity example, there's no one path. Yeah. There's no one like, this is what you need to do everything from an integration perspective. Yeah. It just really comes down to what works for you. And I think that I and we, Megan and I and the kids and stuff are getting there. Yeah. But I don't think you're ever there. I think you're just constantly, making slight adjustments.
I really like talking to you, man. You're expanding my brain right now. It's making me feel good.
Thanks, buddy. I love talking to you too.
No, this is good vibes. And speaking of thanks, buddy, I just thought of when I would walk into the CGS space in the morning, and I would see you. You usually sitting right by my poster too, by the way, oddly enough. And I come see you and give him a hug. You squeeze it out. First thing in the morning. So that's why I love being in that space, because I could walk in for the first 25 minutes of being there. I won't get not a lick of work done, but I will share stories, love, hugs, positivity with all these other people before I get to sit down and do my work, which means as soon as I sit down and do my work, this work's supposed to be fire. Because I just got all these blessings the moment I walk through the door. You work there quite often. What is it like for you being a business person, a creative person in such a beautifully energized space?
Well, everything that you just said is 100% accurate. It's unique to me because I've never been in a situation like that. I've never been in a workplace like that. It's unique for me to be able to be in a situation when you love and respect and admire everybody around you and recognize the fact that there's alignment and everybody's able to contribute something different to a conversation. Everybody's able to contribute something different to a project or to just the day in general. It's really cool, man. And it's hard to define exactly what it is other than just by it being incredibly motivating and satisfying to be able to just kind of be inspired. I think inspiring might be the best way, because it's from a space perspective, from a people's perspective, from the people that the space attracts perspective.
Right.
The new faces that come in, like I had an amazing conversation with the president of the NBA Society this past week, and she just came in because she was coming in to meet with somebody at CGS.
Nice.
And the way the directions that those conversations take you, it's amazing. I think that it starts with that place, and the people that come into that space are kind of equal parts inspiration as they are the space itself.
I think it's interesting too, because referring back to, you commented on like episode 62 and like, how do we feel? And I think that's another piece of this too, is being a part of CGS and knowing that, I mean, it's what, 7-year-old company as of now, which I think is still like, it's still very new, but knowing that, you know, with who's there, I don't see this core group of people leaving, and I don't really see this business not making money in like so that it can exist. So it's like, okay, well, this thing looks like it's going to work, and it looks like it has all the means to work for a very long time. So in finding a way to be a part of that, and like you said, I find it inspiring. I find it's probably a really cool word, really good word to use. It's from so many different perspectives, like the training that we'll do and the conversations that we'll have in our training, and like, these people work together. Like, y'all sound like that sound like family members talking over there. Like, you see this weird, and not even weird in a bad way, but you see this dynamic that you don't see in most workplaces. And it's I think for that purpose, knowing that what I'm doing is being built within that building and within those people, and knowing that what I'm doing aligns with why CGS is doing what they're doing. And it's like, well, I could probably just hang out with y'all forever. Like, I can't find another group of people that's doing the same things that I'm doing for the right reasons.
You touched on a really good point in there, which is yes, you could hang out with these people forever. And that's almost like we were having a conversation before off mic about making sure that we could tell the real story about entrepreneurship, about family life, about the fact that there's good and there's bad to everything. And I think that the good and the bad to that is you got to have headphones. For me, you got to have headphones or else it'd be really easy to not get anything done.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that if you can solve that problem, you realize it's like the $1 billion. Because there aren't any cubicles.
Right.
You don't want cubicles.
No.
There's like the anti-cubicle space.
Yes.
It's an amazing space.
Yes.
But you got to have headphones.
Yes.
Or else you're going to end up in lots and lots of amazing conversations where at the end of the day you say, shit.
Yeah. I still have work to do. I have a lot of it. But you know what? I guess I feel like it's being baked into the culture of our space. Is like, you know what? I think people are willing to stay the extra hour for that reason. Mm-hmm. You know what? I came here. I maybe didn't get any work done for the first 45 minutes of being here, but I'm gonna stay later because I know that the reason why I'm here is because these people think like me and we feel the same ways and we're all moving forward. So, okay, I got my extra goodies on the front end, but I gotta still put the work in on the back end. I think that's the thing that we have to our advantage is that we've got people who are all about the cause, like really in it for the cause.
The other thing that's kind of an intangible that cannot be overlooked as a positive is the support mechanism that you have. When you come out of a meeting that didn't go the way you wanted it to go, or you get an email that didn't, or you get a phone call that didn't do it for you, the opportunity to have a conversation and to have that support mechanism there from people with whom you have that relationship, that's very, very valuable. And it's part of the magic, I guess. It's part of the inspiration. It's part of it can turn things around in a big way. Yeah. Turn a negative into a positive. And it's all part of that same being baked in that culture is a good way to put it.
Yeah, I feel lucky to be a part of it. And I kind of just stumbled across them guys, but I love everything about it.
You stumbled across it. We stumbled across it. We stumbled across it. I think that.
Where were you guys at? How did you meet the goons?
Bradley had sat down with Lauren, and they had like a half-hour meeting that turned into like a 3-hour conversation at the old space.
Oh, okay.
And then Bradley was like, "You need to meet this chick."
Yeah.
And I was like,
"Boom."
Okay. So anyway, we had phone conversations first. Lots of swearing. Yeah. On my front.
Yeah.
Her front too.
Yeah,
but,
probably. Shout out low.
Yeah, no. And then just hit it off and went to the old space, and which was like not even close to being what the new space is like.
Yeah.
But the people were there.
Yeah.
And
that'll do it.
The concepts were there. And many a late night in that old boardroom. And the one thing that boardroom had that this one doesn't have, like even floors.
Yeah, you stay rolling around CGS all the time.
Always in motion.
Oh man, that's jokes. Yeah, it's a good space. And we graduated from our old space to our new space. We keep moving. I got a question for you.
Yeah, go. Shoot.
Why are you here? Because this is a campaign that y'all came up with. And as founders of Placemaking 4G and trying to, retain youth?
Attract and retain talent.
Attract and retain talent. You're what the hell did you call it? A hereby choicer.
Yeah.
HBC.
Well, CFA is a term that shouldn't be used.
Why?
Because it's part of the, like, I would align come from away in the same category as I would align cultural fit. Because when you're saying come from away, a lot of the negativity around it is built around the concept of, things are just fine here. Things are just fine here. Don't need to come from away to come in and you're not so and so's brother and so's sister or so and so's son or whatever. So there's a lot of that, and that's part of the fabric that needs to be changed. And might I even say that we need to change the narrative on? Is there like a ding 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 ding?
Yeah, we should.
Okay,
I'll put one in. I'll put one in for you.
But no, like all that being said, I think that there's a huge difference between a here by choice and a come from way. Most of the people that are here now that weren't born and raised here are here because there's so much that this place has to offer. This place, insert here, anywhere in Atlantic Canada, really.
Yeah.
Insert here, right? Yeah. There's so much, like whether it be the people, the values, the lifestyle, whatever it might be. There's a huge amount of reason to be here, and there's a huge amount of contribution that can be made by people that are here by choice.
Right.
So that's a term that I first heard at a regional enterprise network conference, actually, this past year when I was not in Scotland.
Oh, you missed it.
I know.
You come to Ethiopia next year?
I'd love to. Yeah.
You got to come to Ethiopia.
Yeah. Shout out to the Regional Enterprise Network Conference for teaching me that term. But it makes complete sense. I think that why am I here? I'm here by choice. I'm here because I was having a conversation with a buddy last week about, he was like being like, oh, I love how like you're able to break down the Scotties Tournament of Hearts so well. It was like, I don't know if you know that, but it's the Canadian Women's Curling Championship.
Okay.
So
and you broke it down? Well,
I just was like telling them, like, it was like literally like just like the 10,000 foot view, like this is what curling is, kind of thing. Yeah. I bonded with, I had a really, really close relationship with my grandmother, and I bonded with her through curling, as silly as that is.
Interesting.
But so I came when I was like 10 to Halifax, and I was like, I'd love to be here in my life. And
came from where?
From Montreal.
Okay.
So, well, just outside of Montreal, like half hour outside of Montreal. So, grew up there, and grew up kind of in an interesting situation as an English kid, very English, with a British mom and an Anglo-Quebecer dad in a very French-speaking town. And something about Halifax, something about Atlantic Canada, really, he kind of did it for me. And lots of things happened in life between then and between what ended up being the catalyst to coming back here, but ended up at university at Mount A, and met my beautiful wife, or I guess girlfriend at the time, that became my wife, and she's from here. And it was never really a conversation. It was just a matter of, when we want to start a family, we want to be here. And that's the kind of magnetism of the place. Like, you can almost, let's do the, I can't say synergy because it's in our swear jar.
Yeah, you don't like that word.
Let's use the segue from the previous conversation, or from the previous topic, and bring it to here and say, I think that there's a lot of magnetism and a lot of reason for the space to attract that talent here in the same way that CGS does on a larger scale. Nova Scotia and Atlantic Canada does. Right. And we wanted to be here, and we're here. I think that there's so many opportunities here. There's so many opportunities to do whatever it is you want.
When you say opportunities, what do you mean? That sounds like a really broad word that we get thrown around.
It is, but it also is. You can use it to the full extent of its broadness. What do you want to do? You want to be outside. You want to be inside. You want to work. You want to not work. You want to do something you're passionate about. You want to do something that's 9 to 5, but then you can go do what you're passionate about on the weekend. You can do it all here. And there's so many, there's fewer barriers than I've ever seen in life to really creating something that can benefit the larger kind of ecosystem within the province and within the region here.
So why do we get such a bad rap? Like, why do we have this like have not kind of stigma around? Like, if it's so great here, mm-hmm. why are people consistently saying that it's not and they're leaving?
I don't know, man. I think that like, again, from my perspective as somebody who wasn't born here and raised here, is I think that there might be some of that that's just kind of historically kind of part of a culture that is changing, but there's a lot of history around decades and decades and decades ago, people leaving to go find work kind of thing, right? I think that I think a lot of it has to do with population. It sounds stupid, but like you just look at scale. You look at, so you can go to Toronto, you can go to Montreal, you can go to Calgary, you can go to Vancouver and find a job real easy because there's however many millions of people in those areas. Right. Sometimes you have to be a little bit more creative, I guess, here to create an opportunity for yourself. But the what I would see as an opportunity there, or as a versus a problem, is I guess the way that you would look at it. I don't know why. I think that from the have-not province, like we have the conversation with Bradley Morin all the time, and have-not provinces and the have-not regions, again, it comes down to like that population thing where it's just like, is it feasible to have an Atlantic Canada, to have a Nova Scotia the way that it is now? Probably not.
What do you mean the way that it is now?
The population wise.
Gotcha.
Like certainly not from an expectation for everything from public services to everything you want, right? Because you don't have the density, right? But that's an opportunity to portray all of the advantages to be here, to help kind of ding 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 change that narrative.
This guy knows what show he's on. I love it.
I bet they don't say Breakfast Club as often.
No, they don't.
Yeah,
but
there you go. You have to have a name. There you go, you kids out there. You have to have a name of your show that will be said during said show.
Lessons from Matt Thomson, baby. That's what I'm saying, yo. Appreciate the knowledge. Dropping gems. Okay.
Next up on Thanks for Coming.
We have a spin-off.
So many shows that are just going to be just random things that you say in the course of a day.
Sips his tea.
I'm trying to be I'm trying to cover the
no free promo, yo. Exactly. He knows the rules. What does Nova Scotia, what does Atlantic Canada look like when your children are your age?
So in 25 years time, I think that there's the biggest thing is increased collaboration. I think that one thing that we say in every conversation that we have is that we try to tear down as many silos as we can between communities, between ethnicities, between whatever it is, whatever groups that are the us and them. Try to just tear down that language altogether. I think that increased collaboration can work wonders and can benefit everybody. And I think that just like a realistic kind of collaborative kind of area, I think is what I would like to see, and that I'm trying to help kind of do whatever part we can to kind of create, and still be able to maintain all of the advantages to being here. Because if you think about, if you were to name 50 reasons that you're here, I guarantee you that none of them would be because we're better than so-and-so, or we're better than that region, or anything that would be kind of divisive, or anything that would be kind of like us versus them. But there's so much of that in the province, which would basically mean that if you were to cut out one thing, imagine if you cut out the part that isn't the top 50 reasons for anybody being here. And I think that an interesting,
very interesting.
You were talking about the WHYHERE campaign. We were talking to a gentleman in Wolfville 2 weeks ago, and he was saying, what would be an interesting campaign is if you were to have a conversation with somebody from, insert municipality or town here, and say, instead of what your why here is, talk about why there. And I was like, That's a really interesting conversation. So to kind of wrap that up into a long-winded answer to your question, I would love for the campaign to not have to be why here in 25 years, as to showing people why Atlantic Canada is the place to be, why Nova Scotia is the place to be, and why there's so many advantages to being here. But have it be just kind of without even trying, have it be a why there, to be like, oh, you live in that area, or you do this, or you do that. That's an amazing thing to do. And that's an amazing place to be, without even really thinking about it, without having to have that competitive. Yeah.
What's wrong with the competition though? What's wrong with it being competitive?
It's not that there's anything wrong with it. It's that it's what it leads to. I think it's if you just take a realistic approach, like the question for why here, the question of why is it Nova Scotia have not province and why Atlantic Canada have not province, a lot of it is built on the fact that there's really no room for a competition between that person and that person that live right next to them, because it's not going to lead to either of them winning in the long haul at all. I think that obviously, I played high level football for 13 years. Right. I'm not saying that I'm anti-competition. What I'm saying is it leads to the creation of those silos and leads to the creation of that competition between kind of neighbors, when what you actually should be doing is 100% competing, but compete on an international level. Don't compete against your teammate. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's the kind of, and like compete is kind of a bad word, a bad term to use in this situation, because obviously there's room for competition everywhere. But I think that recognizing the difference between a scrimmage and a game, maybe that's a better way to look at it.
Because I'm really stuck on this competition thing, because I too played high level sports, and when you're an athlete and you're used to competing, and then you don't do that at all anymore, and then you get into business where it's like built on competition, but you're like, there's more than enough money for us all to get what we want. So okay, it's not a I win you lose, but there has to be some sort of there has to be some sort of competitive spirit within this to encourage thy neighbor to become better. Or maybe that's just my perspective.
No, I think you're right. I think that it just is. Maybe competition is not the right word, but I think that there needs to be a recognition of the fact that competition can lead to X, which is good, but competition for the sake of competition should not lead to Y, because if it leads to Y, then that's going to lead to creating all these other hurdles to growth and hurdles to everything else, right? So it's I think it's not an easy kind of clean form answer to that, but I think just recognition to the fact that, like, as you're saying that, I'm also laughing because pretty regularly will I say that one of my biggest motivators is spite. And that's
that's petty gang, baby.
Exactly, right. So you can have
I'm team petty gang with you. Don't worry about that. I'll cop to that plea.
So I think that there's always honestly speaking, there's always room for competition all the time, always, right? But I think that there needs to be a realistic kind of, let's do a deep dive on what's the end game,
right?
And I think that that's probably what I would say. I would say that if there's a recognition and a respect, then for that love thy neighbor kind of situation. If there's a recognition and a respect, then there can be healthy competition, and maybe healthy competition is a better way to look at it.
Okay. Healthy
competition that doesn't lead to all of the negative piece. Be competitive, but don't build a wall. Oh,
No, it's great. It's perfect. It's perfect.
I referred to that as a W word last week, I think. I don't know if we're supposed to use that word.
Ooh. Well, you're going to change the narrative podcast. You can do whatever you want.
Yes.
It's a lot of good stuff you're saying, man. It's
thanks, man. I think it's just conversation.
No. I'm telling you, bro, I struggle with what is healthy competition. Because, I mean, I come from the hip hop culture where, like, Tory Lanez was on Instagram saying, I'm the best rapper there is, and I challenge anybody to a battle. I come from a mindset of I am the best, and that's because that's what hip hop is. It's there's only one number one. So I come from that way of thinking, but also trying to like. But I don't like. I want everybody's podcast. I'm record for saying that. Like, if there was 57 amazing podcasts out of Halifax, that's what you want. So, but how do you compete with those people? Like, how do Atlantic Canadians start competing healthily against each other to boost Atlantic Canada? Because that's kind of where okay, cool. So we got that good podcast, this podcast. Why we ain't all helping each other's podcasts? Or like how? Because I feel like the competition. I feel like there's more internal competition between field mates. The videographers are not, collaborating with the other videographers. They feel like they're more competing against each other. The podcasters are not collaborating with each other. They feel as though it's competition. So, but photographers will work with videographers. Podcasters will work with writers. Mm-hmm. Outside of the same field, it's different. So, like, I guess that's my thing. It's like, how do we push competition in a way that is healthy? But I'm just struggling with this.
I don't know the answer. Yeah. I think that the first thing that comes to mind is kind of broaden your audience, broaden your spectrum. And I don't mean that. I mean, audience. If I say audience, I specifically mean podcasting. But I think that if you're all fighting for a small piece of a pie in business and podcasting and videography. Yeah. Then there's going to be competition for sure. But why not challenge everybody to be an international leader?
So you taking it back to international level again? Okay, yeah, because that's who cares if you're the biggest fish in a little pond?
Mm-hmm. I think that, I mean, like, that's the first thing that comes, like, realistic. I don't know the answer, man. I think that you can, if you can be the best at what you do and create a field for what you do, then regardless of whether or not there's somebody else that's in that field, you're going to be able to kind of rise to the top or to be successful, let's say, within that field. But, I think that, like, if you take it back to a business perspective, I think that a lot of the positive conversation that's happening is around the fact that we're not trying to create big fish in small ponds here anymore. Everything is looking at an international landscape to be able to say, it's not like the big scary world out there anymore. It's like, let's do it. Like, let's take that, let's be the best, but let's take that, let's be the best. And let's not just say, let's be the best in Halifax. Let's just be the best and recognize the fact that you can have, 3 all-stars in a team that make each other better.
Facts.
You know what I mean? So I think that that's the kind of, depending on what your end goal is. And if your end goal is just to be a big fish in a small pond, you gotta reevaluate what you're doing.
Because that is what it is, right? We should be, if you're making music, you shouldn't be competing with Classified. You should be competing with Drake. Mm-hmm. You should be competing with the greatest musicians in the world, and not just the ones geographically in your region. So.
And to have that, like, you want to be motivated, like, you want to have that healthy competition.
And no shade at Classified.
Hey, he's from my hometown. Well, not hometown, but very close by.
Yeah.
Shadow Classified.
For sure. But like you said, competing at the highest of highest levels.
Yeah.
You were going to say something, I interrupted you.
I don't know.
We can end on that.
That's another. I have no idea what I was going to say.
This was a great ass conversation. I'm glad you finally got to bless our microphones.
I'm glad to be here, man. It's a good place to be. It's doing what you're supposed to be doing, and it's changing that narrative, which is cool. Having that conversation, man. Have the conversation. That's the first step.
My guy, Matt Thomson. Where do they find you on the interwebs if people want to check you out?
Where do they find me, or where will I actually respond to them finding me?
That's probably the more important question.
Because I'm still wrapping my head around Facebook.
Yeesh.
Yeah, I know.
You're on Instagram.
Yeah, I was off of Facebook for a while, but I'm back. So Facebook, Instagram, Matt.White. Let's talk about, come full circle. So of my grandmother's name was Dorothy. Called her Dot. And that's where my Instagram and Facebook, or I guess Instagram and Twitter handles come from. Matt.White. MattDotWhyte. That was my grandmother's name. And then my daughter's name is Dorothy. So it all comes full circle. It's all about that motivation. So Matt.White on Instagram, on Twitter, Facebook, just me, or Placemaking 4G on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn. That's it.
Placemaking4g.ca.
Placemaking4g.ca or p4g.ca.
p4g.ca.
A lot of traffic this past week on p4g.ca, which is exciting.
Better be.
Yeah.
How many views did that video get so far? I seen you posted about you only need like 999,000 more to get that million.
Well, there you go. See, it's like don't strive for 100,000, strive for 1 million. I think that it's been up for like 3 days at this point. When you hear this, it's going to be up for like 2 weeks, but it's like 14,000, 15,000.
Good.
Keep sharing it.
Yeah, turn that into some cash dollars.
Yeah, there you go.
Some relationship building, and you build for the future. Stay in that CGS building, man, because it's only bound to send you more blessings.
Yeah,
I ain't leaving. You see me?
It's a place to be.
Yeah. This is a change. Oh no, hold on. I gotta say, y'all know where to find me at. This is Changing the Narrative Podcast. Thank you for listening. I'm only joking. I'm Terrence J. Taylor on Instagram. Bye.